Shergold starts when I was a kid, 16, 17, and I was a big Joy Division fan. They were true originals, obviously born out of punk, but they were a more interesting, educated, almost cultured version of punk, as daft as that might sound. Their music was, to me at that age, very intriguing, and something I and my friends wanted to replicate. All of that really existed in what I've been listening to on Unknown Pleasures. A wonderful album, and where Martin Hannett was doing some really off-the-wall stuff, but he pretty much left Bernard Sumner's guitar alone. The guitar tone is just still very, very pure, and that's what we wanted to get back to. I bought a black Shergold Masquerader Custom in 1979. Guitar I no longer have, unfortunately. All these years later, after a long career in the musical instrument business, I find myself the owner of both Shergold Guitars and Barnes Mullins. And Patrick James Eggle is a very good close friend of mine. And we were talking one night and realised, with his help, I could actually realise the original dream of having Bernard Sumner's guitar. And we discussed it and thought about how it could be done, and here we are. I started scouring for months trying to find original Shergold parts. This guitar came without any machine heads. It's very important to find an original set of West German black plastic cased shallers, which we did. We didn't have any original bridge saddles, managed to get some of those. So all these little bits and pieces over a number of months we were able to find. Contacted DiMarzio, said I need a couple of DiMarzio pickups. I need a proper DiMarzio PAF and a super distortion. We got that. So ultimately we had the whole, if you like, kit of parts.
So I basically had a box of bits, and what we first tried doing was to rebuild the original guitar as it was. The problem was it had had a bit of work done to it already, which is normally a bad thing. There were lots of holes in the wrong place. There were lots of parts of the body which had been routed incorrectly for what we wanted to rebuild. Nevertheless, we tried doing it. We filled the holes, we did lots to it, and we sprayed it, and in the end we weren't really happy. So in the end, what I did was I went back to the drawing board, and rather than do it in a way that we normally do it these days with CAD and CNC and all that kind of thing, because it was a one-off guitar, and because I wanted to keep with the spirit of the late 70s, you know, I thought, well, I'll go back to how I used to build guitars when I first started, which is basically chopping bits of 1/4-inch MDF out with a saw and filing them and scraping them and sanding them, and that's your template, and then using that as a template on an old-fashioned pin router. And that's kind of how I did it. And it was quite a good exercise, actually. And in the end, I think saves a lot of time from basically doing it how we do these days. We finished it in a very thin polyester rather than a nitrocellulose sort of lacquer, which is what I use on most of my instruments now, or all of my instruments now. Because that's what it would have been finished with in the 70s. And we wanted to stay true to that. Now, this is actually clear plexiglass, and the black colour has been sprayed on the back together with the logo that shows through, which is actually pretty cool. It's not the easiest thing to work with, but it works very well on this guitar, and it certainly has its own style. Also, it's worth mentioning that the original kind of Bernard Sumner customised Shergold would have had a trem. We decided not to do that because, in my humble opinion, with everything that's going on here with the string break angle and these string retainers and everything, I couldn't see that a trem would have a cat and hell's chance of staying in tune ever. So we didn't fit a trem. We fitted one of the original Shergold bridges that we managed to source, and it actually works extremely well. We've got three-way selectors. Now, we had the sort of layout was kind of preordained, so it was a case of deciding what to do with that layout using more contemporary switching. So we've got three-way selectors. The top selector works as you would expect it to: front pickup, both pickups, bridge pickup, and then the middle one controls the neck pickup. In its forward position, you've got the front coil. In its center position, you've got both coils on. In its back position, you've got the back coil. The bottom switch does exactly the same thing for the bridge pickup. So you've got a lot of combinations and variation with a fairly simple control layout, which is the way I generally like to do things anyway.
It's like going home. The shape of the neck, everything is as I remember it. But now I've got those Damasio pickups on it that Bernard Sumner had on his, and that's a whole world of tone that I never had before. So it's a joy to play. Purely for me, a passion project, and it's also very important to me that if we were going to do it, we would have to do it properly. It would have to be exactly as this one is, and that's not a cheap guitar. So all we would be doing was producing a lookalike, and they're already out there. Not something we want to do. The Barney will join what is known as a pie crust or an SG2. That's a very, very old guitar. This goes back to the days where Shergold was purely making for other manufacturers. In fact, one of the manufacturers it was making for was Barnes Mullins. So most pie crusts that still exist have got the Barnes Mullins branding. What I've got in my collection is I actually have a pie crust with a Shergold branding on it, so that one's very special. What I've also got in my collection, which I'm very proud of, is a 1976 Masquerader unsold. Never played in anger, still has its original strings, still in its original box. So the Barney will be joining those two guitars in my little Shergold collection. We had the opportunity to acquire, as Barnes & Mullins, Shergold Guitars, which of course was very, very close to my heart, which we did in 2015. And so that's how it came about. And it was great because the two companies coming back together was hugely important to me. Jack Golder and Norman Holder were building Shergold guitars in the 70s and 80s. And they were using the best techniques and the best technology that was available to them at that time. They were making cutting edge designs and making their guitars affordable. That's what Shergold Guitars was always about. And so today we are trying to stay with the original Shergold ethos, making modern guitars for a modern young market and making them affordable. We're introducing the standard series. The guitars that are of the new generation Shergolds that are presently on the market are what we call the custom series. The standard series will share a lot of family characteristics with the custom models, but they will be less expensive and be able to deliver a lot of those features at a much lower price point for young players. But also, we've got a brand new model coming out, which I can tell you will be called the Shergold Telstar, and we're very excited about that.